Have you ever assembled furniture before?
Well, I mean, if we're talking like bookshelves, I can do that stuff.
Oh, you can do a bookshelf?
Not like couches and stuff. I mean,
Oh,
maybe I
yeah.
could. I don't know.
I'm doing a dining room set. The chairs have extra things going on because I have to like do the
Mm.
thing and then do this other thing and then do this other thing. Then I have to drop it on the floor. And if it rocks, then you have to redo the whole process.
Oh
It's more involved.
no.
I thought you just plugged and play, but it'll be fun. It's a nice little set. It's big enough because we got into this thing called gaming. I mean, I guess there's a few types of gaming. One type of gaming is called board gaming. So we're board gaming right now. So,
Board gaming. What's a board game?
what is a board game? A board game is kind of like it's basically a bunch of rules and then cardboard. So it's cardboard plus
Mm.
rules. Sometimes you have plastic, but it's mostly cardboard, like either cards or board or
Mm.
cardboard chits or tokens. And there's all different kinds of board games, right? I mean, there's
Mm.
plastic board games. If you take the classic, I don't know if you were born in by the time that this thing went out of style. But there's this thing called Connect Four, which was a plastic board game. There's like this kind of, you drop these little chits down this like tunnel system, and then you kind of made a shape. It's kind of like tic tac toe.
Oh yeah, I think my great grandparents,
Yeah,
maybe I think it was their parents had
you
it.
should look through your archives, your family archives, see if they had any board games. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if they had photographs back then.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow. They must have at least had like, I don't know, mimeographs or something like that. Like
Oh,
what are those
maybe
things?
I'll have to look into
Yeah.
it. Mimeographs
Well,
of Connect
yeah.
Four.
Do you not board
Monopoly.
game? You just
No,
pie.
I love board games.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your board game of the month?
Well, I haven't played a lot lately. I
Why
just
not?
because I play them online because there's lots of pieces
Oh,
and parts and you can play, against the computer. I play a lot of Boggle, but that's not really board
that's a word
game.
game. It's a board game. You're probably
I
like
love
higher.
word games.
Are you? Yeah, you're kind of like verbally intelligent. Is that
I'm
fair to
good
say?
at unscrambling words. I'm not that great at expressing things via words.
Well, come on. Let's try it. Why don't you express something? Express the particular sadness of seeing a sunset for the last time before spending a year in a mine.
Yeah, I'm not good at that stuff.
You can't even give it a shot. You don't even want to try.
Okay. It was really pretty.
And sad?
No, I can't ad lib worth crap. It's terrible.
Okay. All right.
No, but
Hmm.
I admire people who can and who can use a lot of beautiful descriptions and
Similes, metaphors.
hmm
Do you use the word like a lot, or did you have to get over that at a
I
certain point in your life?
oh, I never got over it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you curse yourself when you say like too much?
No, I just am like, you know what? Um,
Like,
I just
what?
did it.
Yeah, like, okay.
I just talk like a valley girl and I don't even know why.
You don't know why? I guess
No.
I don't know to what extent you want to go into your past or not, but is Valley
Don't you have a
girlhood?
dining room set to assemble?
I do have a dining room set to assemble, but I want to hear why you hate Pearl so much.
Oh, I hate women in
Can you see
general.
me? Okay, can you see me or not?
Yes.
Okay, see, this is asymmetrical warfare right here. So you hate women so much, women who have more than you specifically, right?
Should I shut off the view to make it fair?
I can't see you at all.
Yeah. So should I shut off your view so I don't see you?
No, you can just be a coward in your bunker looking at
Okay.
me one way. I don't even have a full size picture. I have like this tiny little picture of you. And now my eyes go all over the place. I just have to pretend. But it's good practice.
Yeah.
You don't really hate women, do you?
No, no.
But you're only a fan of men from your Twitter account. You only stan men, right?
Um, I stand Megan Kelly pretty bad.
Really?
I don't post a lot about her because it just the community is kind of Daily Wire and that's where we're all focused. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love Megyn Kelly. I think she's just awesome.
Have you always loved Megan Kelly, or when she got like a certain event in her life that she
Um,
popped up on
I
your radar?
I just wasn't aware of her before that, and I mean, I just didn't pay attention. But
Mm.
when after that happened, and then she started a podcast, I started listening to the podcast, and I was like, oh, she is just wonderful. So I call her like the kick butt Meg Ryan of right wing politics.
Oh, that's cute, Meg Ryan. I remember Meg Ryan.
Yeah, she was sweet.
She was a sweet one. I had a follow up question on that. So they made a movie about her, and she was played by not Claire Danes, Charlize Theron, and there was Margot Robbie and Nicole Kidman in this movie, and it was about like how swarmy or smarmy the Fox News
Oh, was
broadcasting thing was.
no, that wasn't the one about Matt Lauer.
I can't remember. But it was
Hmm.
interesting because I don't know when Hollywood made that, but it was right after Me Too, and they're trying to say, don't look at Harvey Weinstein, look at Fox News. Like it was really like this
Oh,
weird self
interesting.
own, or like this kind of like, let's look over there, look behind that curtain, don't look behind our curtain.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's been interesting hearing her story about Fox News.
And she's independent now,
Hmm.
like Tucker
But
Carlson, kind of.
she says it was basically a cult. Like not a cult, but the leaving it is like leaving a cult.
You burn your bridges.
Yeah, and you have all these loyalties you didn't even realize were unhealthy, and you put up with a lot of abuse. But yeah, Pearl.
Daily Wire first. Why
Oh,
Daily
Daily
Wire?
Wire.
Yeah, can we get like a
Sure. I it was so I grew up very conservative, but more, I don't know, socially conservative. Um, and a lot to do with like morality and faith. So where morality and faith ties into politics, just preserving the good values that we were kind of founded on. So anyway, it wasn't until 2020 hit that I just really started following politics closely because it was just, I don't know, I was really scared of the virus. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I wasn't scared because of news, because I wasn't following the mainstream media either. When I heard about it, I just was scared of it. And I was like, we
Mhm.
need to be safe and try to slow it from spreading. And my husband felt the same way. And I didn't realize that that wasn't the conservative stance. So, because I was following this closely, I was like, I kind of want to know what, that one guy who talks about, oh, he'd do like the abortion debates, who like destroys college student. Like
Mhm.
he's got a good perspective on some things. I'd like to hear what he has to say on this COVID stuff. So, long story short, I got hooked on Ben Shapiro and reluctantly Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh and all of them.
So Ben had already been involved in this Daily Wire thing.
Yeah, they'd been around. I guess they started in 2017 and they didn't have all the guys there at first. I'm not
Yeah.
sure who all came when, or 2015, I think. Because actually, yeah, there was a Pearl tie-in with that.
Yeah, I remember that. But what? So what basically attracted you to these guys is that they're not mainstream, but they're speaking to a conservative, not bias, but leaning of
Yeah,
yours. Yeah,
yeah.
and
Although that was where I was really shocked to hear that they were like, "No, don't wear the masks, don't get the vax." Ben was
were
a
they
little bit more
unified about
pro.
that?
No, actually, Ben was good about. I say good about because I don't like when people immediately take the stance that they feel like they have to. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't like when it seems like, okay, whether they believe this or not, they have to take the stance because that's the conservative way. And I felt like, and at the time, I didn't even know why it would be conservative to be anti-mask. But I followed Ben, and I really liked like he took kind of a balanced approach to things. He was like, take precautions, be safe, but we can't lock down the government forever. We need to move forward. And
So he
and
was
then
good about not hedging his bets, but explaining his position to a potentially hostile audience. Was that?
oh, I felt like he was just good at being moderate, like in not letting politics affect how he was going to approach dealing with the virus.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas the other guys were like, don't wear the masks. So you've got Ben Shapiro saying, yeah, wear the masks. You got Michael Knowles saying, don't wear the masks. And then you got Matt Walsh saying, mock anyone who wears the masks.
Yeah.
And that to me was just so atrocious that I didn't even know what to think, you know?
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, so all that to say, I got hooked on them despite, kind of disagreeing with some of their views. And they've kind of red pilled me, I guess. Not pearl red pilled, but,
Red
you know,
pearled.
yeah. Yeah, they've kind of pushed me more to the right, I think. But
What is the right then? What do you think? Is that
I can't.
anti-authoritarian or?
Yeah, I'm not the person to ask. I'm
Yeah.
really terrible. It's just I can tell that okay, this
Okay.
is I didn't realize this was more right wing to think this and this, but now I see it.
Okay.
I wasn't that invested before. They've even got me more convinced on guns, which I was like, oh, guns are just stupid. We should just get rid of them. And now I realize that that's stupid, but you know,
How do you? So you said you don't really pay attention to politics, and then you're paying attention to politics.
yeah, I didn't.
So you construct a political identity, or you just kind of
Oh, I
fangirl
just
and have fun? Like, what's politics?
oh no. So sorry. No, so I was always I thought politics were just boring. It's like that's for other people. I know
Yeah.
which way I vote. Like I know where I stand on the issues. Like I was very, very pro-choice, very not pro-choice.
Oh,
I was
okay.
very on anything regarding like all the stuff that's so hot button you're not even supposed to talk about it, but gay marriage, all of that stuff. I was very conservative, Christian, traditional. So for me, it was a lot of it was social issues. The government side of it, I was ditzy about.
Yeah. Are you still ditzy about it? Didn't they just kicked out the McCarthy guy from the head of Congress thing? This is how ditzy I am. Like, apparently
You're
this
fine.
thing happened. Do you care? Does this
I
matter?
it would probably matter if I was invested in it. I just haven't. Honestly, like my last few weeks have just been like the red pill movement, Pearl, all that
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
But yeah, no. So just to answer your question, I have gotten way more interested in politics since getting invested in Daily Wire. But a lot of it is just because the culture is so anti the values I grew up with. The Daily Wire has brought me a lot of sanity going through all of this and just seeing the culture change because I felt so just frustrated and helpless about. I wasn't into politics per se, but the way the culture was changing and becoming more depraved and more just embracing degeneracy of every kind and losing its way. That's why I love Daily Wire because I feel like they bring some like stability and sanity throughout and some hope because they're actually getting some laws changed.
Okay. Yeah. So despite Matt Walsh being more blustery than you would like, you see his blusteriness showing results, and so you're okay with that. Has your attitude towards his blusteriness changed in
That's
the
a
wake of
really,
him changing
really good
things?
question.
challenger.
Yeah. He's yeah, I've started to see where that type of aggressive attitude can be good, even the mockery, which I still have a hard time because to me, like, you don't want to
Hmm.
move towards being less civil and more obnoxious. But when he has made the point that if you don't shame certain behaviors and mock them, they become normalized.
Hmm.
And if you can nip them in the bud, you can kind of chase those out of society. And I guess I can see his point. But no, I love Matt Walsh. He's great.
Why? Can I just ask, like, what is it about? Like, is it how he approaches things? Is it like some sort of
Um,
core set of values of
well, at
his, or
first I
his
just thought he was
personality?
just a grumbly, cranky, mean person.
He does have a crackly voice or crunchy,
Yeah.
gravelly voice.
And he's very insulting to people. But uh, no, he's a really strong, sweet family guy. Like he really cares deeply about his convictions and his family, and that's
Hmm.
come through. My husband actually got me more into Matt Walsh because he connected with him right away.
Okay.
He got him,
Yeah.
and Matt Walsh can make my husband laugh like nobody. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
always fun watching with him.
Well, I think this is important for the red pill thing, because the left, if we just allow this very low resolution language game of left versus right to just play out, just to kind of orient ourselves, broadly speaking, what role does the left have for men to play out? I guess you can do, when you think of it, I think of Antifa, I think of male feminists, I think of, I guess, homosexual males, males with various sexual proclivities, are, adulated and given a place there. And then I guess minority males are also a confined footing in what the left provides. The left
Mm.
just meaning like the American left, the popular left, the Democratic Party, let's just say.
Hmm.
But there's also a lot of disaffected males in our society, and the left can tend, at least the left media can tend to denigrate and put down masculinity. I mean, openly puts down masculinity, left, right,
Hmm.
and center. Like you see, it's not as popular as it was at a certain point in time, but like there was a lot of demonization of masculinity and of males who refused to tote the party line or happen to be white and heterosexual. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of disaffected males. And where do the disaffected males go? Well, the right doesn't have that. The right seems to be a place where males can exert masculinity,
Hmm.
can be themselves in a certain way. And the right is kind of aesthetically a little more masculine, I would say, than the left. And it's kind of its value set, on,
Hmm.
I don't know, performance against caring or something like that. So when you, so this kind of getting to the picture here, you being a conservative female, interacting in a more either integrated, harmonious male and female political space, or a more male political space, you stumble upon this red-pilled movement that's kind of next door to where you would be, or kind of loosely associated to where you'd be, and Pearl's kind of talking to the people on that side of the aisle. Is that true? And then,
Hmm.
like, how do you square that, or are you surprised by the amount of, let's just say, maybe rudeness, or maybe if you want to use the word misogyny, which is a
Hmm.
political term, so maybe you don't want to use that term, but kind of maybe easier, or like a tendency to denigrate the natural psychology of females,
Hmm.
caring, pity, softness.
Yeah. So I like how you put it that that's exactly it. I just sort of stumbled into this adjacent space that was so hostile. And,
Hmm.
I'm used to, uh, a certain amount of brashness and gruffness on the right, and can embrace that in that men are able to fully be men in every masculine sense without I shouldn't even say that
Being
because
policed too
honestly, like
much.
they do get policed too, but it was beyond that. It was I hate to use the word toxic, but it really is toxic because they don't just hate. They claim to just hate feminists, but what I see happening is hatred toward females and femaleness in
Mm,
general to the point where even if you don't fit into their box of feminism, or even if you do fit into their box of supposedly ideal woman,
yeah.
they still treat you like crap because you're a female.
Hmm.
And that's not to say the whole movement is like that, but that's what my experience on Twitter has been. I mean, Pearl called me a
Recently or forever or
narcissist.
what? Like
Was that?
we're talking about like when you stumbled upon this pretty
Oh,
recently,
yeah, I'm sorry. I should have.
or has it
Yeah.
always
So
been?
once I
Yeah,
stumbled into the red pill side of things, it was different.
yeah.
I was used to the gruffness. I wasn't used to this just mean,
Targeted. Yeah.
hatred towards females. They'll say it's not hatred towards females, but there's, in my opinion, they're so brainwashed into thinking that all women are the same and have the same capacity to be just as bad as what they're seeing in the worst of the worst
Hmm.
that they don't trust any women at all. And I don't know if this is answering your question because this is where my mind just goes on and on and on. But
Well,
yeah,
let's ground it for a bit to just kind of give the unfolding, like you discovering
yeah.
this cavern. You're just digging around in the right wing thing of things, and something catches your eye. A pearlescence catches your eye. So when did you first run across this pearl?
I first heard about Pearl in the last couple of years when I was looking. I really enjoy watching right left debates that are actually fair, and it's hard to find that. But I felt like Vice did some good work with that. Um, and so Pearl really stood out as being somebody who wasn't afraid to stand up for men and to just flat out say, women have it easy, a lot of ways in this society, and the culture doesn't hold them accountable. I'm like, dang right. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought she was square on with
How
that.
did you agree with her? How do women have it easier in the society and they're not held accountable? What patterns have you
Oh,
seen?
see, hmm. I mean, it could be anything from like the big topic right now, the no fault divorce, to just the way the Me Too movement treats women versus men.
Believe all
Um,
women, then kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. Um,
I noticed
I
quite a
can't
bit
think of them.
that,
There's so many.
yeah, I noticed quite a bit when discussing kind of men and women, just the language we use to discuss the negatives or the faults of women. We always, almost always tend to ascribe the faults of women to the faults of society. And then we turn around and kind of just subconsciously assume that men are responsible for their own actions. Like this man
Mm,
is immoral, this man is broken, this woman has been broken by society, and society has given her the wrong morality.
mhm,
I've noticed that in conversations that I've had recently, and just listening to the language, which kind of I think is it's interesting, and it's contentious to even bring it up to point that out.
mhm. Which
But
is
it's kind of
sad. It
natural.
shouldn't
It's
be.
natural. There's just we are kind of gynocentric species.
Hmm.
We kind of have to be just because the conditions of our being born by women.
Hmm.
And woman is kind of something that sex happens to, and the baby happens to. I mean,
Hmm.
which isn't totally true, but like, there's just like, it's
There is a biological component that the woman is kind of put at a disadvantage and
yeah,
is, yeah. So I can see why people take that to the extreme, but I think because I don't know, there's so many different ways to look at it, but
mhm.
as the government has come to step in and take more role in society, and women think in my opinion, women think they're independent and they're not. They're just more dependent on the government, even if it's not directly by, a check coming in the mail. Like there's more protection for women. There's more, society's more protective of women. And if a man, looks at a woman wrong in the workplace, he can get fired practically.
Mm.
So I just feel like, and when women don't feel protected, they go to, well, the laws need to be more protective of women. Society needs to change more for women. You tell women, if you dress like that, it's okay. I'm not telling you how to dress, but if you dress that way, you are going to attract more of the wrong kinds of attention. Like you can say, well, men are going to do that anyway. But if you dress that way, like you are going to get more attention. And women finally acknowledge this to where they're saying, oh, I hate this, but I've started bringing like a shirt along to like button up when guys look at me. We're like, well, duh, that's what we've been trying to tell you all. That's what men have been trying to tell you,
Yeah.
it's, so I think,
I understand
all of that they're because, and so what women do is they say that Misha, that kind of goes around talking about modesty and how women shouldn't have to dress modest. She had a viral video with the girl who's like filming herself pumping gas and complaining that the cars are slowing down.
Yeah.
She had posted that. So she and I have gone back and forth a little bit, but she's like, women shouldn't have to dress a certain way. Like the culture should be like, men should be protective of us. Aren't they supposed to be protective? And I said, girl, when they tell you to put on more clothes, they're being protective. They can't be right there with you when you go off by yourself. It's just, it feels so backwards. But all that to say, like, whenever women don't feel safe in society, they say society needs to change so that women will be more safe. So basically, what they want is for society and culture and the state to be what men always were for women in the past. And so they think they're independent, but they're not, in my opinion.
So that would be a place where you and Pearl, when you first came across her, overlap.
She would probably say the same thing. Yeah.
And
Except
weird,
meaner.
except what? Meaner. Okay. So if Pearl had a beard and the gravelly tenor of Matt Walsh, would you have the same reaction to her when she gets more extreme than that? Unfair question, but
No, that's a really, really fair question. I've asked myself the same thing. For one, I've never seen Matt Walsh say anything remotely close to women are so dumb. Ever. He's actually really respectful of women. People don't think he is because when he attacks someone and they happen to be a woman, then he's, he gets just bashed with, oh, you're a misogynist, He is so respectful of women and he is so like, he talks so highly, speaks so highly of his wife. And this is not somebody who is a misogynist in the true sense,
It's further
Pearl
conflated.
Very, very, Pearl is just flat out in your face. Women are stupid.
Women. Is she a woman?
Mm-hmm.
So is she saying I'm stupid?
Well, that's what I said in her comments. I was like, well, you're stupid, so you're a woman, so your opinion doesn't count.
Yeah. Can a woman get away with that level of self-contradiction? And is that not showing that women can get away with it more than men in certain respects?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't even know if this is answering your, probably not, but what I don't understand is how her audience, which is primarily men, I actually had, I'm sorry, this is why I'm so bad
That's
at
okay. No, you're
I just
doing
have
fine.
my
You're doing
mind's
fine.
all
Don't,
over.
Yeah, do not, don't give in to the neurotic female tendency to self-criticize.
Nice. But no, well, that men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti
Wait, what?
analogy.
No,
You've
I
not
haven't heard
that?
this. Okay, here we go. What's this one?
Well, men compartmentalize.
Okay.
Women, it's like one long continuous strand that wraps around all these others. Like that's my brain.
I kind of, yeah, if that was my gender, I'd probably be a waffle spaghetti monster, a spaghetti waffle, or maybe a waffle with a bunch of wormholes in it where things can bleed into each other. So
I like it.
yeah.
But so yeah, I actually called somebody out because they said, Pearl, or no, they were defending Pearl's how it started out, but then they're telling me you're just you women, like you modern women, you're so, masculine and assertive and aggressive. And I'm like, I'm thinking, well, it's social media. You kind of have to be a little bit sometimes,
Hmm.
especially when somebody's hating on you and calling
Hmm.
your friends.
Isn't that what they find attractive about Pearl? That she's kind of being one of the boys?
Well, I literally said to him, I said, but you defend Pearl. And he's like, what does she have to do with this? Like, what? She, they said I was like a 304 and masculine. And I was
A
just
304, I
laughing.
haven't heard this.
Oh no, put it on a calculator and turn it upside down.
Okay, hold on. Oh, four. Oh, are you? I don't think you
No.
are. Boys and their calculator slander. The reason that I'm attracted personally to the gender discourse is that it's the fundamental building block of civilization. Men and women coming together and figuring out how to work it out long enough for the kids to not be completely screwed up that they can't perpetuate the race, right? So on a cultural level, it's just genders there, like
Mm-hmm.
generating negotiation tactics for males and females. But also why I find it endlessly fascinating is that there's so much pointing of fingers and there's so much hypocrisy and there's so much projection. Like we're always projecting each other. We're always desire is always warping the playing field, and desire doesn't need to be just the physical desire to have sex with somebody, but the animal desire, the romantic compulsion, the desire to meet and have intellectual discourse with the opposite sex. I think it's all a part of the same thing. And when we distill gender down to just biological sex, it ruins, or just sexuality itself, it really obscures like all these really more subtle dynamics of what's going on. And plus there's so much psychology going in there. So if you ask yourself, and I guess there was one guy who I think I had come across earlier in my Twitter existence who kind of complained to you. It was really interesting. He's like, you bitching about Pearl, it's so mid or something like that, right? Like you're taking it part, like whenever you psychologize like this, you're like losing the plot a little bit. And then a woman steps in and says, how dare you tell women what to do? It's just a whole other realm of the discourse. And then I go over to the guy who criticized you, or kind of like offered his opinion that maybe you shouldn't be psychologizing this. And I went over to
Oh yeah.
his Twitter, and then he has this whole his pinned tweets this screed on how women should never be in a role of leadership, and he has all these quotes from all these popes dating back hundreds of years. It was really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, like the amount of opinions that we have of each other, and then you ask yourself, well, so you have all these opinions on men. Speaking of Pearl, or like Pearl, like she's single.
Mm-hmm.
This other guy, like, have you had a successful relationship for 2 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, for 50 years? Have you had kids with a man? Have you built a family together? Like, there's all these different dynamics that are like, how much do you actually know about the opposite sex, and how much are you trying to plug in your knowledge because of like what you brought up? Like maybe this is insecurity
Mm-hmm.
speaking, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the irony of people coming in and saying, stop psychoanalyzing Pearl. You're just a
Yeah.
304 who needs to go and repent and
Stop psych- Stop psychoanalyzing her. You're just your cluster B personality, and they start psychoanalyzing
yes.
something like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's so
why?
funny.
This is a personal question. This is a psychological question. Like, what is it about Pearl that like grinds your gears? Like, what is it?
Oh yeah.
Like, what is it that makes it salient, and that you feel the need? And maybe it is because you want to counter her message. Maybe it's beyond the personal stuff, but I'm sure the personal is what kind of quickens you. But maybe it doesn't.
Oh, so when you say personal stuff, like the personal insults or the
Well, I mean, I guess
personal
there's that, but like, why care what she's saying? Why care about what she's saying?
uh-huh.
And
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So okay, so I I first came across her on Vice panels. Was like, she's cool. Didn't know she was on social media, didn't pay attention. And then a few months back, I saw a couple tweets from her. I was like, oh, this girl isn't that great. Like, she's kind of weird, kind of trollish, and
Yeah.
just
You
a little
see the
mean
game that she's
spirited.
playing, perhaps.
Yeah.
And you've been playing
And
that game too, so you're pretty salient with Twitter. You know, you're not
oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I'm
uninitiated.
not saying it's she's doing anything wrong by like having a presence on social media
Or
or
a spicy
anything.
presence, even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm not even that spicy until people get me riled up. And I'm like, all right, bring it.
Okay.
But no, she's her stuff seems so mean spirited
Hmm.
towards people who just because of their sex. You know, if she was like attacking, okay, well, the Tradcon's this. Oh yeah, that's going to ruffle my feathers because the people she's talking about are the people that I respect. But
Hmm.
it's not the same as saying, well, you were born a woman and you're just inferior and bad and inclined towards evil. And in
And
my
deal with
mind,
it.
everyone
And
is, but you know,
one of her tweets that I saw you respond to was that your man sees you aging. Simping is an epidemic. It didn't quite make sense. Maybe that wasn't even her, but
no, that was
she
her.
she'll lay into women about and their physical beauty, and not in
Mm-hmm.
a way where you as a woman need to mature beyond your physical beauty, or the process of aging has a very powerful impact on a woman because you begin life. Well, I mean, you begin your sexual maturity being, like going really, shooting really high up in attractiveness. And then that becomes a really
Mm-hmm.
powerful social value that you have while you're developing as a person, while you're developing your personality. And then letting that
Mm-hmm.
go over time it's a big deal. So,
Mm-hmm.
like there are ways to maturely hand advice to women about how to do that, and like how to treat their beauty, with respect, or treat the death of their beauty with a certain amount of grace. And maybe the death of
Mm-hmm.
prettiness is the birth of beauty, because when you see that your physical container is declining, you notice that how you use it is more beautiful, or something deeper, like not an inner beauty, but like the articulation of your
Hmm.
voice, of like how you connect to people, how you make people feel connected to you, is much more powerful than just being sightly in the corner of the room, right? So I'm just wondering, I'm just throwing things out there, that it looks like she's just saying, like, when you're no longer physically attractive in a two-dimensional way, your value is nil because you're stupid, right?
Well, and she did follow it up with something. And I agree with what you're saying. Everything you said is very on point. And I just want to say, like, if her goal was to get the conversation going so she could then focus on inner beauty and in maturation, I wouldn't take so much, not even
Umbrage.
personal offense, but just I feel like it's just so hurtful. Like I'm
Mm.
in a place where I'm aging, but I feel just as loved, if not more so, by my husband than ever. But what about for women who are struggling right now? And then they're just getting this message of just the Pierce Brosnan one. He loves his wife so much, and he's been very outspoken about that. And they're
Mm.
still together, which in Hollywood, that's amazing. And they have kids
Mm.
together. And for her to be like, is this a successful marriage? Is this a win? Stuff like that. I just think it reinforces because our audience is mostly bitter men who
Mm.
are hurt, angry, or scared to get into relationships. And she's, I feel like almost more than what she's doing to hurt women, she's hurting men by perpetuating this really shallow view of women and very just,
Mm.
I just feel like it's really ugly. And that for someone like her not to psychoanalyze, but I don't see any evidence that this is out of really caring for men as so much as it is just kind of being divisive because it's a good way to get popular.
Mm.
And I could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong, but yeah, that so I think that's what really triggered me was seeing the men in the comments who just had so much hate for women and were just cheering on the things she was saying. And I thought,
Hmm.
okay, who does this benefit? Yeah, it's nice to be able to vent, but and of course, the guy wants a woman to say back to him all of the worst things that he thinks about women
Hmm.
for her to confirm that. But I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think it's edifying.
Hmm. It's counter to your values.
It's counter to the values.
The values. Wow.
No,
Okay. Yeah, you're
I
Tradcon. I forget. Okay, yeah. It's the values.
no, you're fine. I had to. But yeah, it is very, very counter to my values. And I honestly, I can't even think of anybody on the right or the left who wouldn't think that that was a horrible thing to do,
Hmm.
except for the red pills who are like, yeah, women are bad. Women are bad. Like the rest of us are like, what?
Hmm.
But yeah,
Why do you, yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so yeah, just a brief, I guess, caveat or apology. I don't mean to denigrate Pearl one way or the other. It would be really interesting to have had both of you on and to interact with her. And I don't mean to specifically gossip about her. The question is, what is it about what she's saying that has incised you? And that's what I'm trying to get at, and trying to see what you're learning about these disaffected men and what the strategy is to change their mind on these things. Because then I guess you speak up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you guys get into a flame war, you and Pearl, right?
A little
And
bit, yeah.
it's entertaining. I mean, okay, despite what it is entertainment. I mean, this is Twitter, right? But then you kind of get on the radar of a bunch of people, mostly men, who then focus their ire on you. And
Mm-hmm.
do you see any expansion of the conversation beyond the criticism, beyond the very basic agreement, disagreement, or friend enemy distinction? Do you see any cracks in what these men are seeking,
Mm-hmm.
and how they might see that this way of thinking is going about getting what they're seeking in the wrong way, maybe?
Um, yeah. So it's been interesting. I didn't go in with any kind of purpose. I guess we should say that how this all started is she came after Daily Wire, and that's where kind of the two worlds collided. And I got in there, and I'm like,
You're
oh,
the
don't you
DW bitch
even?
force. You're like, how dare you attack my men?
Because the things she was saying were just not. If it was somebody on the left, I'd be like, oh, you stupid, quit lying.
Okay.
If somebody on the right, it's like, what are you doing? Like, these guys support so much of what you
Mm.
believe, and now you're going to start like trying to stir things up and get them just just lie about them. And she baited them, and then the same week she came back. This is why I don't really trust her. Is she baited them the same week that she was putting out stuff on Crowder, the Stephen Crowder situation, all the allegations about abuse and whatnot. So this at the same time she brings that up, then she starts kind of baiting the guys with on the marriage topic that you shouldn't encourage guys to get married
Hmm.
because you don't know what they're in for. So it kind of tied together, but that's not where like they didn't respond to anything about Crowder. They responded to her telling the guys, "You're too young to comment on marriage because you haven't been married long enough." And they're like, "You're a single girl and you're trying
Mhm.
to give us advice and you're younger than us." So anyway, so that was going on. And yeah, so
Hmm.
then she actually said, so they attacked me the same week that I released the Crowder information. Coincidence?
Hmm.
And I was like, you baited them the same week. And then they responded to that. And now you're like, they're attacking me because I'm releasing stuff on Crowder. Girl, come on. That's so dishonest.
That's clever. That's good marketing. That's a good
Oh,
marketing tactic.
see, I think that's just underhanded and shady as all get out, especially
Okay.
to somebody on the right. Like, that's just my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's a good way to get a conversation going, but when you're,
Yeah.
these are people who should kind of be your allies, and you're like trying to make them look bad and saying they need to come out and apologize for whatnot. And
Yeah.
I don't trust somebody like that. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm naive, but
We all have to
yeah.
judge each other's character and, make friend enemy distinctions. This conversation folds into another conversation that I've been paying attention to called No Enemies to the Right, which is a male dominated conversation. It's mostly a bunch of I want to say theory cells, but even that is too theory celly of a term. There's just a bunch of like kind of intellectual neo-reactionary dissidents having a battle about
Hmm.
how do we police the boundaries of political discourse? Do we allow, no enemies to the right, meaning either there can be no enemies to the right so that you can't police discourse and things can just go way out of hand? Or does it mean that we're going to be principled in our disagreement, and we're not going to offer up people on the right as sacrificial lambs to the left? We're going to
Hmm.
close the ranks because we are embattled. So it's really interesting to see that in a very intellectual space.
Hmm.
And it's very abstract, and there's all these, everybody's referencing all these different things and all these stories, and it's mostly guys, so there's a very particular way that the egos are working themselves out, and
Okay.
kind of the blusteriness of that. And this, what you and Pearl got into, kind of is related to a no enemies to the right kind of thing. Like if you're on the right, you're on our team, and there's ways to police discourse, and there's ways to provide criticism for each other. But if we're attacking each other, then we're no longer allies, and you can't really be on my team if you're going to make my team lose. So there's the same kind of end goal of how do we negotiate criticism amongst, how does the right negotiate
Hmm.
criticism amongst itself? How does it police behavior and certain attitudes and certain values? And yet, because there's something kind of different in how it's going on between you and Pearl than between Charles Haywood and Rob Dreyer, the people who are hashing it out, the guys who are hashing it out. But it's
Mm.
kind of the same different thing. And it really opens up a huge question that I don't think has been looked at enough or explored enough. And it's a huge, like, content mindedly, it's a huge gold mine or huge gold thread to mine about what is the role of women in the right, and how do the women, does how important, or it's not a matter of how important women are to the right, it's that
How significant is this? What impact is it?
women are incredibly significant to the right, in their political power, in their, I'm sorry, but their biopower, like their ability to generate children, the ability to make home reality, the ability to make men productive, the ability to give men meaning in life beyond their own pursuit of pleasure, or violence. Like women are the most important part of the puzzle for the right to solve. And
Hmm.
I don't see enough. I mean, you see people like Mary Harrington and Louise Perry and people of that ilk coming from the left to the right and saying maybe the left went too far and maybe we want a little bit more conservative ideals. But there's just a huge question about what is the role of women on the right? What is the role of the conservative woman? Is it to be quiet and to be a pretty trad girl? Like, what is that? And I wonder, you interacting with this space for several years now, like the connections that you've made with women on the right, and how you see the sex dynamics, not sexual, but just the sex
Right.
dynamics between males and females going on that. And what you're describing now today and experiencing for the last few weeks is a particular toxic, disaffected male population among that, that
Hmm.
could be wayward and not necessarily productive to the end goal of like a good society if left
Well,
unchecked.
yeah. And I feel like I didn't even completely answer your question earlier. So uh when like kind of what is the point of this? I do want to say I don't think it's good to stir things up and make enemies on the right of people who should be your allies. So in a sense, I'm doing that with Pearl. but it's in response to her trying to make enemies of and make liars out of people who are doing
Mm,
good things.
mm,
So I feel a little hypocritical for saying, no, we need to be allied. Well, why are you publicly fighting? It's like, well,
mm,
because this is, to me, it's evil to, it's one thing to say, I think what you're saying is wrong. You should change this. And I think it's another thing to make people out to be like, oh, well, they're, to spread lies about them and
mm,
im-
mm.
make implications that
Impugn, yeah.
they haven't earned. Uh, yeah. But
To
and then
slander their
also,
character in one way or another. Yeah.
yeah, in a way that's isn't true, but you kind of want something from it, so you're gonna.
Hmm.
It just seems very self-serving. Um, and then the other thing that I didn't answer was, I actually have had some guys who finally saw through uh, that I was on their side, even if I don't agree with their end goal of we're going to change the court system by convincing men not to get married for now, and then
Mm,
that
mm.
strike on marriage. Oh, that not to
Yeah.
get into the weeds, but
MGTOW,
um,
kind of,
yeah.
just kind of like
Um,
boycott marriage.
but I do see like a lot of these guys are hopeless to the point where they just don't think there are any good women.
Mm,
Period. And
hmm.
I feel like they're finally like starting to see where we're earning their trust a little bit, and they're able to actually look at some of us who are, and we're like, no, dude, like we're Tradcon, but we're so pro men, and like we care about what men think, and we want
Hmm.
men to be in leadership. As to your question about roles, that's something I'm just wrestling with right now. Is
Hmm.
like I've kind of felt guilty at times because I'm like, well, if I'm so about traditional roles, why am I, as the woman, just coming out here like without a guy? Like, I mean, my husband, I tell him everything that's going on. So it's not like I'm just like on my own out there. But
Hmm.
yeah, just like why am I being so aggressive and pushing so hard, especially against men in the conservative space? Like, I don't think it's wrong in this setting, but at the same time, I'm like, ultimately, traditionally, that probably isn't the kind of world I would have wanted to see happen within conservatism. Because I do believe men are supposed to be the leaders in most cases. And
Hmm. Well, so
yes,
okay, that's really interesting. This is really interesting. So, yeah. So stereotypically, the you feel pressured to be play a support role.
I don't feel pressured to by any of the guys within the conservative space.
Yeah.
I, I mean, a couple of the angry red pill ragers were, wanting me to be quiet. But I don't feel pressure. I think that that's you can operate within a system that you feel is broken without thinking that this is the way it's supposed to be. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I would be fine with I would be fine if all of the political offices were held by men. Like that doesn't bother me. Like I'm like, no, women should have a chance. I don't really care. That's where I'm a little like Pearl.
But you like to speak.
Yeah, but
And I mean, I'm sorry to say, but you have a talent for communication, even though you denigrate yourself. You have a talent for communication. So it'd be odd to say just because you're a woman that you shouldn't hold an opinion or advance a position.
I'm well, as far as like being in office, I don't think that women shouldn't have like a position they hold on topics. Like
Yeah.
sit in the corner and be quiet. But
Yeah, but
um,
even as a internet, I guess just a not an influencer per se, but just somebody involved on Twitter, like why shouldn't you be able to voice your opinion? There's just
oh
like
yeah,
some
back to
tension
that again.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I got sidetracked. Yeah. So it's not that I don't think I should. It's just, it seems to run contrary to me saying the things I'm saying. Cause it's like, okay, because I raised the question of, should women vote? or no, I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I said, what has it been a net positive? And in my opinion, it hasn't necessarily been a net positive. Not saying women shouldn't vote or that it's all bad, but some of the way culture has shifted since then, I don't know that it's the best thing. So,
Mhm.
but for me to say that, I'm also saying, okay, well, if women didn't have so much influences in society and things were the way they were, would I really want this? And is it really fair for me to be so outspoken and have a platform where I can go out and say whatever and push back against the men and at the same time be like, but I want traditional society?
Hmm.
It just seems a little bit odd. But no, I
Yeah.
haven't felt pressured into silence by the guys.
Hmm. America is not the only culture out there. There have been other articulations of gender roles, and I think American women are just particularly strong and outspoken. And not every country or culture has women acting in the same way or performing in the same way or directing their powers in the same way. And this is probably contentious to say, but like a lot of cultures have had a female domain and a male domain, and the female domain is the domestic domain, and then the interdomestic domain where women are kind of speaking amongst each other while taking care of like a certain type of work,
Mm-hmm.
and and policing boundaries and policing language and doing all the things they do anyways, and gossiping and just like policing and making sure that everybody's on the right on the right course, and that nobody's cheating around, and taking everybody else's side. Well, whatever they do, and then men are out there doing other things out in the, in another domain. And then a certain top crust of men and women are doing the aristocratic game,
Mm-hmm.
which is removed from kind of like the commoner domain. And I think that we are a very, individualistic and egalitarian society. And I think we train women, we rear women to value things that men value, and we value male things more than female things. If you look at, this is a really low resolution example, but if you look at how media depicts the strong woman, it's really easy for them to just bolt on a pair of boobs to a superhero and call that a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a strong woman. Whereas, like there's a lot of other powers, but they're a lot more nuanced. They're not like, I'm going to go punch a wall or like save a child. Like, that's more of a masculine, typical, kind of way of engaging with the world or expressing power. Whereas woman's power would be more along the lines of a court drama, like a
Mm-hmm.
courtly drama, like or Sense and Sensibility, like with a lot of internal politicking and
Mm-hmm.
looking back and forth. So there's, and then when we go into the purely discursive domain of Twitter and the internet, everybody's kind of, I think Mary Harrington said that everybody has like to act like a woman, at least as far as aggression goes. Nobody can punch another person, so we all manage reputation destruction. We all do kind of female typical techniques of gaining prestige and putting other people down, and it's a bunch of word
Mm-hmm.
games and name calling and stuff, which are typically associated with 12 to 16-year-old girls, like kind of the mean girl thing, because it's divorced from the body. You can't just go out and punch a guy who insults you or something like that.
Yeah.
So I guess I know I'm rambling, but it's interesting that you feel a little tension between what you want the world to be like and the role that you're playing out, kind of being an outspoken woman, when you kind of want there to be a place for maybe like a softer form of power or a softer form of influencing, peddling. You'd be more comfortable with the softer.
I mean, I've always been
Yeah.
a very gentle person.
Hmm.
So to even be on social media, just just saying the things I'm saying, it's like, I mean, I feel it strongly. I'm not, but I'm not, I'm not the type of person who would normally, I never was one of the mean girls. I was one of the ones who couldn't even understand how the games worked.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so I actually, it's interesting you brought up, female power dynamics and how they fight differently than men. Um, because this week, the last week or two, I've even wondered, it's like, is that what I'm doing? Like, am I being a mean girl? I mean, I felt like I was fighting the way I would fight if there was a man who said something that I felt
Mm,
was really offensive. But I
mm,
don't know. Maybe I'm not. That's part of why I deleted a video because I felt like my intention wasn't mean girl, but I felt like putting it out there was really cruel. And
mm,
I deleted it the next day. I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to
mm,
do that.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's an interesting balance for sure to be somebody who believes in traditional gender roles and who believes that, women there are different ways that you can be a woman, but um, in general, we're not supposed to be out there and being so aggressive and um,
and yet you would
yeah.
admire Megyn Kelly.
Well, and that's the funny thing. That's what cracks me up about it because she's so tomboy and everything and so
Hmm,
aggressive. But I don't know, maybe I just have a girl crush on her.
hmm.
I
So,
just think she's so sweet. And the thing that I love about her is she is very aggressive, but her empathy is just so apparent too. And I think that
mm,
that's really neat.
hmm, hmm. Do you think that Tradcon can be anything more than a LARP? Is there a content there? And I mean that's a negative question, but what is the content of a Tradcon, a traditional conservative, as a kind of as an identity, as a
Yeah.
political identity?
Well, and I haven't thought that much about it because I wasn't even familiar with Tradcon being, I maybe heard it once or twice before Pearl came out with the Tradcon men need to stop pushing men into marriage
Mm,
thing that she did. It was like Tradcon, I guess that makes sense. I mean, people were, to me, it's like, it, it's the opposite of LARPing to me. It's like just deeply held convictions of like, this is bringing back traditional values. And I realized that'll look a little different for different people. But
mm,
basically, like the things for the most part that Daily Wire stands for are just the values I grew up with. So to me, that's like home. It's like, yeah, this is right and this is wrong and this is good for society. And um,
mm.
so I had never heard Tradcon used much before at all.
Okay.
And I think if it was negative, it was only from the left. So I didn't realize there was like Tradcon was a bad thing to people within on the right, to anybody on the right. I
Well,
mean,
anything that gets memed kind of becomes a LARP, right? So,
hmm.
and I've heard, like qualms about Christian nationalism, whatever that means, and like kind of impugning on Christian nationalism that's kind of fascistic or it's kind of it's a bad it's the sheep's clothing for the wolf of fascism kind of stuff. But a
Mm.
trad con does want, in a certain respect, to either impose or evoke a moral normative program in society,
Oh, okay.
which is just tricky to do. If we are in a liberal society, how do we go from being open and you do you as long as you don't harm me to actually no, you can't do this, that, and this other thing, and we're going to shame you or we're going to police normative boundaries, and without exciting accusations of fascism or whatever it is.
Hmm. But isn't that what we're already doing? What the left's doing right now? I mean, can there be a society where it is that libertarian? Because it kind of seems like things were starting to get more that way, and then the left
Hmm.
came in, and it feels like somebody's going to come in and impose values no matter what. And if it isn't based in,
Hmm.
and I'm going to come straight at this from a Christian perspective, if it isn't based on God's law and biblical Christianity, it's going to be based on some other religion. Because I think that every system boils down to some sort of religion, even if it isn't belief in a higher power. It's something
Hmm.
that you believe that your philosophy or whatever it is you believe in that. That's the way it is. And everybody else has to adhere to it at some point because that's where law comes in, So I like how Michael Knowles was actually, don't tell him. I don't say anything good about him, but no, I like how he'll
As a point
say,
of pride or process or personality. Like this is part of your persona.
yeah,
Relentlessly shaming the Knowles.
yes,
Yeah.
he's the worst. Um, I gave him an empty can of soup once.
And that's where your name comes from.
No, that was because of the name.
And is it related to soup Nazism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just a joke. I didn't like him, so I was like, I'm going to make my account just something about no soup for Knowles. But then I came to like him, but that's top secret.
Yeah, we won't.
Yeah, he's the
that.
worst.
I'm going to totally edit this out.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I like that he says, they say you can't. You can't legislate morality? He's like, they're doing that every day. It's just somebody else's morality. And I know that people will say that, yes, but there are boundaries, like you shouldn't outlaw divorce. And I'm not in favor of outlawing divorce across the board, but they'll say you can't, outlaw abortion, you can't outlaw all these things. It's like, well, I guess I shouldn't have even brought that up because I'm not ready to get into that. But I do think that there is going to be morality one way or another. And if you don't have clear boundaries, it's just going to be this kind of a wishy-washy, well, we don't really believe that, we don't, and then it'll get pushed the other way and back and forth. And I think, the right just kind of needs to step it up and be like, look, we tried tolerating and being understanding, and everything just got pushed further and further. And now it's like radical left just being pushed everywhere. So that kind of has got me a little bit more open-minded to the idea that, well, all right, let's just clamp down from the right.
More open-minded, ironically.
I know, right?
Huh. And
more
pushy too.
Open-minded to the idea.
You want to push you want to forward your ideals. You want to stand up for your morality.
Mm-hmm. More open-minded to the idea of pushing morality, if that makes any sense. But no, I mean, I don't think that I would never be in favor of, a church-run state. I think it's not like that, but I mean, there were so many laws that we already had in place that people pretend we never did. And they aren't even suggesting bringing back all of them, but to bring back any of them, it's like, how dare you? This is America. We have rights. It's like, I don't know. It's ironic.
So what is the, because we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what is the, what do you feel like you're being called to do by being so hyper online? And I don't mean that derogatorily, because I'm probably just as hyper online as you are, but you're doing this thing, you're communicating with people, you have an audience more or less. But do you feel like it's calling you to do something or be something or leading you or even just like teaching you things about yourself or pushing you in certain directions?
Well, that's a good question. I probably should get offline more, but it's just sort of
touch grass, bake a
of,
pie.
Yeah, the course of the way our life has gone, and with our kind of sporadic business work. I don't know. I run a number of group chats and kind of play a role in some of the community, and I don't know. I don't have like a goal per se. I'm here, and I do pray that God uses me. I hadn't for a long time. It just didn't come to mind. And then I don't know if you saw this tweet, but I just one day I was like, oh, God, I pray that you'll use this. Like I don't have a huge platform like an influencer, but I have more than I ever pictured. I have I don't know, 17K or something. And so it's like, okay, God, how can you, I want to give this to you. Like, I don't want it to be about me. Like, what can I gain from this? Like, I do want to be used by you. And then a couple days later, I was bored baking pies. My husband had to run out of town. So I just opened up a Twitter space, and I didn't try to do this, but it ended up being like 8 hours. And at least 6 or 7 of them were people talking about God and Christianity and having these long, in-depth conversations. And I just kind of sat back and listened. I'm like, and then I remembered later, oh, I prayed for this. Huh. Well, that's kind of cool. So, if there is, I just don't want to assume that, oh, I'm doing this great thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do want something good to come from it. So,
Notoriety,
I mean,
kudos from people higher up in the chain.
yeah, that kind of stuff is fun. Definitely, like that's like a motivating thing. Like, oh, that was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
But no, and then I don't know. I guess there's been mentoring and things that have happened where I just ended up with people needing to talk and get advice and just work through life together. I mean, it's more about the friendships than anything, but I can't say that was all purposeful. It just is what it kind of became.
So if you were to have the power to kind of just like, it seems a little too early to like, put a bookend on the Pearl interaction that you've had, but what is your goal for that? What is your hope for the communication that you guys, or the sparring that you had? Like what would you hope it to result in?
Well, for one, I had no idea she would respond to me.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of, you just put something out there into the void because you're frustrated. And so you just, you push back and then they respond. You're like, oh, wow, this is happening. Okay. If I could wish for anything, it's not because I had any purpose in any plan in trying to do this or that I could take credit if it did. But I would hope that she would start to look at things a little bit differently and to keep pushing for what she's pushing, but in a way that isn't so divisive. So if I had any way to, say, hey, let's talk about this. Like, I don't see that ever happening, that I would have any influence, but I do wish the best for her. Like, I really do want to see her flourish. And I hate some of the things she's saying. And I feel like if she continues in her way, what I would love to see is for, I guess I'm repeating myself, but just for the guys who follow her to get more out of that than just, I hate women, MGT, what is it, MGTOW?
Yeah, MGTOW. Men going their own way.
I've come to have a lot of compassion for the guys just in the interactions. And it makes me sad because I do feel like they just feel so hopeless.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of indulging in, it feels really good when there's somebody that you have had a lot of animosity towards have that confirmed. I can't think of the word. And to have your biases confirmed. You're like, oh, they really are bad. Oh, they really are that bad. And but it's not a good place to be. There are so many wonderful women. There are wonderful modern women, but they think that there aren't any more trad women, that they're all feminists, they're all fake. And I know so many good, great, wonderful girls who would make amazing wives. And these guys they need to not lose hope,
Mm-hmm. And so, beyond that, there's a question of, are you going to be equipped for a successful marriage if you're already out the gate willing to call your wife stupid because she's a woman.
Yes,
And, and like
exactly. Like I want the best
analyze
for
her
them, but then I'm
patterns.
like, wait, I wouldn't recommend you to any of them. But no, I've had a couple of, actually one of the guys has started standing up for me when the other guys attack me now because he's like, no, you're wrong. Like she really is legit. Like she really is a good woman. And you look like an idiot for talking that way to her. And, I mean, what if more guys started to see that there are a lot of us out here that we are committed to our husbands. We do love them. A lot of us did wait for marriage and they talk about how that's so important to them. And no girl does that. And it's like, actually, I know some girls who are still waiting for their husbands. Like, it's not so for them to just assume, and I don't even think a lot of these guys deserve that, by the way, but for them to assume that there are no women like that is so wrong. And I just encourage them, like, dude, you want that kind of woman, you need to go to church because that's a lot of values you're looking for. Well, I'm not Christian. Okay, well, maybe you need to start there. It's like, because it sounds like you want that kind of a relationship and that kind of a commitment, and you're not getting buff and going and like sleeping around, getting buff, making a lot of money. Okay, that's great. Now you're going to attract even more of the shallow women who are going to divorce you for your money. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have an aim in any of this other than just I see it, I'm passionate about it, and I can't just see people like thinking this is true when it's not, I guess.
Well, Britta, listen, I told you this a while ago when we had a Zoom a couple of years ago, maybe. You were working on a different project, and I just like I encouraged you then. You should definitely do AV stuff. So thank you very much. Like in giving yourself the opportunity to express yourself more. I know you're not just like hold up, you don't not do things and stuff, but I just appreciate that you come on my show and give me like, just let yourself be exposed in this format for an hour and, hour and change, and let other people hear you. Cause I think you do have something very valuable to add to the conversation. I think you have a talent at communication and substance that talent serves. And so, I just want to encourage you to maybe turn on your video camera at some point, but baby steps.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's end it there. Or we can do an awkward thing. Are we going to do an awkward thing? Let's do an awkward thing. Oh, ask me something awkward.
So, I don't know, Friends or Seinfeld?
Friends or Seinfeld? Seinfeld.
Ugh.
What? Are you're joking? You're trolling me now.
No.
No, you can't. There's not even a question.
Seinfeld's overrated, but The Office is the best ever.
I guess The Office is okay, but yeah, I don't know. What's better than The Office? I mean, we'd have to go out of sitcoms into like Mad Men or Lost. No,
Lost isn't a sitcom.
Lost is a show, though. That's a show.
I love Lost. I met one of the guys from Lost.
Oh, really? Which one?
Mm-hmm. Sawyer.
Oh, you met him? Oh my God. He's so cool.
But it's the best because we didn't know it was him. We weren't at like a convention. We were just like doing it wasn't a farmer. It was like a festival. Just a little festival up in Jackson, Wyoming. We're at a booth and this guy comes up to the table and he's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm facing the other way and I'm just doing my own thing. My husband's like, oh, yeah, you look familiar. I was like, oh, yeah.
And then you turn around and you're like, son of a bitch.
Ah! No, like I turned around, I looked at him, I was like, yeah. He's like, that one guy from Lost. I was like, oh, like the doctor? He's like, no. And he's like, Sawyer. I was like, oh, yeah, maybe. He's like, wait, are you him? He goes, yep. Yeah, it was fun.
You're the cutie pootie. Well, you got to meet you. That was your brush with fame.
Yeah.
Great. Favorite pie? Do you have a pie recipe? Is there a place where people can mail order your pies? Or are they only like pies, personal pies?
We don't have a way to mail order yet.
Okay.
Shipping is
Yeah.
so expensive to keep it cold and keep it
Yeah.
safe and everything.
Yeah.
But
Cold and
someday
safe. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Well, but can people like survey your pies? Do you have a pie channel?
I don't.
You don't? Have you thought about making a pie channel?
Like a YouTube channel?
Yeah, like a pie tube.
But I'm not a YouTube. I'm not a. Yeah, yeah.
No.
Me who won't be on video. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally
Well,
gonna
it
do a
could just be
YouTube
your
channel.
hands and like the pies. It's
Oh,
about the
okay.
pies, Britta. It's not about you. Not
Oh,
everything's about
okay.
you. Jeez.
I don't know. I'm
Typical
such a
woman.
narcissist. Well, you know,
Taking the
Pearl called
selfie
me
in
a.
front of.
You know, Pearl called me a narcissist, right?
Well, is that not true? Why would she call
Oh
you a
God!
narcissist? What does
Wow.
that mean? Aren't we all narcissists? Like just by dint of like thinking your voice matters online, isn't that like a narcissistic trait?
Must be.
I don't know. Did you take it personally? Because that means
No.
that you're a narcissist.
I thought it was funny.
Oh, okay. All right. Then maybe you're not a narcissist. You're so selfless and humble.
I just don't take her
Look
that
at you.
seriously.
Okay. Yeah. I
Oh,
know.
so mean.
It's a little internet drama, but I think there's something important there. That's why I wanted to have a conversation about it and stuff. And hopefully, people that have no interest in being on Twitter or any of this stuff find value in it, because I think it does point to something in the conservative side of things that is not being addressed, which is just what are the girls doing over there? What are their values? What do they want? And what is the content of their belief, and how do men and women get along and forward these values together?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm going to end the recording now. Thank you very much for joining
All
me.
right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Boom, boom,
Bye.
boom.